Number 33. Imitate Columbo.
In your professional life, whatever it is, always be curious. When you meet with someone, think of yourself as a bumbling but friendly private detective like Columbo was. Ask questions. By asking questions in your relationships, you're already creating the relationship, and you're already self-motivated. You don't have to wait for the other person to make it happen.
Number 34. Give away some power.
Motivate yourself by giving someone else the ideas necessary for self-motivation. You can have any experience you want in life simply by giving that experience away to someone else. John Lennon called it instant karma. If you want to be motivated, shift your inspiration to someone else. Point out their strengths. Offer encouragement and support. Watch what it does for you.
Number 35. Talk to yourself.
We've always been a little nervous culturally about talking to ourselves. We associate it with insanity. But Plato said that thinking was the soul talking to itself. There's no one better to talk to than yourself if you really want to get things worked out. No other person has as much information about your problems. No one knows your skills and capabilities better. Nathaniel Branden suggests that we get our creative thinking going each morning by asking ourselves 2 questions. 1, what's good in my life? And 2, what is there still to be done? Because thought always precedes action, talking to yourself is a proven way to get motivated.
Number 36. Schedule your comebacks.
Progress toward your goals is never going to be a straight line. It'll always be a wavy line. You'll go up and then come down a little. 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Now, most people get discouraged when they slide a step back after the 2 steps forward. They think they're failing. They think they've lost it. But they really haven't. They're simply in step with the natural rhythm of progress. Now, once you understand this rhythm, you can look ahead on your calendar and block out time to refresh, renew, recover. Schedule your comeback while you're on top. Build in big periods of time to get away, even to get away from what you love, because coming back is going to be that much more exciting when you've been renewed.
Number 37. Live your true life.
The psychologist David Viscott wrote, when you say you fear death, you're really saying that you fear you've not lived your true life. This fear cloaks the world in silent suffering. How do you know what your true life is? How do you know how to live it? First, find out what makes you happy, and then start doing that. Now, if writing makes you happy and you're not writing for a living, you might want to start up a company newsletter. When I first realized that speaking and teaching made me happy, I started a free weekly workshop. I didn't just wait until something was offered to me. There's no goal better than this one, to know as you lie in your deathbed that you lived your true life. You did what it was that made you happy.
Number 38. Get up on the right side of the bed.
Since I was a child, I've always been intrigued with the idea that you could have a great day just by getting up on the right side of the bed. Today, my fascination is not so much with the right side of the bed as it is with the right side of the head, or, to be more precise, the right side of the brain. In the 1930s, brain surgeons discovered the different functions of the 2 halves of the brain while working on epileptics. In 1950, Roger W. Sperry made the greatest breakthroughs in discovering that dreams and energy and creative insight come from the right side of the brain, and linear, logical, short-term, and short-sighted thinking came from the left side of the brain. The best explanation for how whole brain thinking surpasses left brain thinking or right brain thinking is in a book written by British philosopher Colin Wilson called Frankenstein's Castle. Wilson reveals that we have more control over drawing vital energy and creative ideas from the right brain than we ever realized. And what stimulates the right brain the most is a high sense of purpose. If you had to carry a heavy sack of sand across town, your left brain might get upset and tell you, well, you're doing something boring and tedious. However, let's say your child were injured. Let's say your little girl were injured badly, and she weighed the same as the huge bag of sand. You'd carry her the same distance to a hospital with a surprising surge of vital energy. That energy would be sent from the right brain. And that's what purpose does to the brain. Self-motivation increases when the left brain gets good at telling the right brain what to do.
Number 39. Use your magic machine.
Most people wait for an external crisis. A threatened bankruptcy or an attack on the street or the burning down of their home or an unwanted divorce to finally kick in their whole brain thinking. But that leads to a life of reaction rather than creation. The 3 best ways to activate whole brain thinking are through goal setting, joyful work, and revitalizing play. So rather than wait for some external crisis to appear, you can create an internal challenge of your own. Goals and games. Goals and games motivate you more than anything else in the world.
Number 40. Get your stars out.
Terry Hill, the New York writer, has been a friend of mine since the 6th grade, and he gives lectures and seminars on creativity. His advice to his audiences on the subject of creativity is from J.D. Salinger, and that is, make sure you get your stars out. And this is another way of saying, let the universe that is in you shine freely. Don't try too hard to force things. Just get your stars out and let them shine.
Number 41. Be a finisher.
Do you want to know where fatigue really comes from? It doesn't come from working too hard. All the research shows that fatigue comes from not finishing your work. William James once wrote, "Nothing is so fatiguing as the hanging on of an uncompleted task." I was giving a self-motivation seminar recently. During one of the breaks, a man came up to me and he said, "Hey, you know what? My problem is I never seem to finish anything. I'm always off onto something before anything's completed." He then asked whether I could give him some affirmations that might alter this. So I said, "Do you think affirmations are what you need? I mean, if you had to learn to use a computer, could you do it by sitting on your couch and repeating the affirmation, 'I know how to use a computer. I'm great at using computers. I'm a wizard on a computer'?" He admitted that affirmations would probably have no effect on his ability to use a computer. So the best way to change your belief system is to change the truth about you, I told him. To believe that you're a good finisher, you've got to build a personal record of finishing tasks. He followed my suggestions, and he followed them with great enthusiasm. He bought a notebook, and at the top of the first page he wrote, "Things I've finished." Each day he made a point of setting small tasks and finishing them. Whereas in the past he was inclined to start sweeping his front walk and leave it unfinished when the phone rang, now he'd let the phone ring so he could finish the job and record it in his notebook. The more things he wrote down, the more confident he became that he really was becoming a finisher. Consider how much more permanent his belief change was than if he tried to do it with affirmations. He could have whispered to himself all night long, "I am a great finisher." But his right brain would have known better. We motivate ourselves by finishing things.
Number 42. Invent games.
So whatever it is that you have to do, whether it's a major project at work, a huge cleaning job at home, turning it into a game will always bring you higher levels of energy and motivation.
Number 43. Interact.
There's a huge difference between active relaxation and passive relaxation. Active relaxation refreshes and restores the mind. It keeps it flexible and toned for thinking. Great thinkers have known this secret for a long time. Winston Churchill, for example, used to paint to relax. Albert Einstein played the violin. They could relax one part of the brain while stimulating another. When they returned to workaday pursuits, they were fresher and sharper than ever. Most of us simply deaden the mind in order to relax. We rent mindless videos or read tabloids, we drink, we smoke, we eat until we're foggy and bloated. The problem with this form of relaxation is that it dulls our creativity and it makes it hard to come back into consciousness. But when we find ways to link thinking to recreation, our lives get richer. We become players in the game of life and not just spectators.
Number 44. Live a whole life today.
John Wooden was the most successful college basketball coach of all time. His UCLA teams won 10 national championships in 12 years. Wooden created a major portion of his coaching and living philosophy from one thought, a single sentence passed on to him by his father when Wooden was a little boy. That thought? Make each day your masterpiece. While other coaches would try to gear their players to some kind of important game in the future, Wooden always focused on today. His practice sessions at UCLA were every bit as important as any championship game. In his philosophy, there was no reason not to make today the proudest day of your life. Today is a microcosm of your entire life. It's your whole life in miniature. You've got eternity in the palm of your hand. Life is now. Life is not later on. And the more we hypnotize ourselves into thinking we have all the time in the world to do what we want to do, the more we sleepwalk and the more we miss life.
Number 45. Welcome your problems.
Every solution has a problem. You can't have one without the other. So why do we say that we hate problems? Why do we claim to want a hassle-free existence? Deep down, where our wisdom lives, we know that problems are not to be feared. Problems are simply tough games for the athletes of the mind, and true athletes always want to get a game going. If you learn to love the opportunities your problems present, then your motivational energy will always rise. Every solution has a problem.
Number 46. Drive a library.
One of the greatest opportunities for motivating yourself today lies in the way you use your drive time. With the huge variety of audio tapes now available, you can use your time on the road to educate and motivate yourself at the same time. Maybe that's where you're listening to this tape right now. If we leave what we think about to chance, or to an R-rated rock disc jockey, then we lose a large measure of control over our own minds. Audiocassette learning is one of the surest ways to reprogram your subconscious mind. It's one of the best ways to design an action-oriented belief system, the kind you need to inspire ongoing self-motivation.
Number 47. Rewind your thoughts.
Perhaps you've noted some idea in this program or some recent book you've read that you want to hold on to. Even a single phrase, if you place it prominently in your home or in your office, can have a huge impact on your life. So write things down. Put things up. Write down what motivates you and put it up where you can see it.
Number 48. Make yourself up.
One of the ways to get started creating goals and action plans is just make them up like you did as a kid. Think of creating in simpler terms than that. Think of it as something that all humans do very easily. The French physician Émile Coué said, "Always think of what you have to do as easy and it will be.
Number 49. Get small.
Most people participating in the free enterprise system have become thoroughly convinced of the power of setting large and specific long-range goals for themselves. Career goals, yearly goals, and monthly performance goals are always on the mind of a person with ambition. But many people overlook altogether the power of small goals. Goals set during the day that give energy to the day and a sense of achieving a lot of small wins along the way. By increasing your conscious use of small objectives, you'll see the larger objectives coming into reality much faster than you thought they would.
Number 50. Get out of the box.
All of us tend to look at our challenges from inside a box. We take what we've done in the past and put it in front of our eyes and then try to envision what we call the future. But you see, that restricts our future. With that kind of restricted view, the best the future could possibly be is a new and better past. Great motivational energy occurs when we get out of that box and realize that the possibilities for creative ideas are infinite. To create the best possible future for yourself, don't try to look at it through a box containing your own past. Create the future from nothing.
Number 51. Advertise to yourself.
Sports psychologist Rod Gilbert says, quote, "Losers visualize the penalties of failure and winners visualize the rewards of success. Without advertising our goals to ourselves, we can lose sight of them altogether." Now, I'll often start the day by drawing 4 circles on a blank piece of paper. The circles represent my day, my month, my year, and my life. Inside each circle, I write down what I want. It can be a dollar figure, it can be anything. And the goals can change from day to day. It doesn't matter. There's no way to get this process wrong. But by writing the goals down, I'm like an airline pilot looking at my map before takeoff. I'm orienting my mind to what I'm up to in life. I'm reminding myself of what I really want. Now, when you get on a plane, would you poke your head into the cabin and say to the pilot, just take me anywhere? That's how we live our lives. That's how we live our lives when we don't make a map.
Number 52. Don't stop thinking.
Motivation comes from thought. Everything we do begins with a thought. And when we quit thinking, we lose the motivation to act. We eventually slip into pessimism, and the pessimism leads to even less thinking, and so it goes. A downward spiral of negativity and passivity, feeding on each other. Pessimists think so negatively about doing the whole thing perfectly that they end up doing nothing and becoming passive. Whereas the optimist always does a little something, always takes an action, always feels like progress is being made. Pessimists continually use their imaginations to visualize worst-case scenarios, and then concluding that those scenarios are so hopeless that there's no cause for action. Therefore, pessimism always leads to passivity. Optimists agree with Colin Wilson's point of view. He said, imagination should be used not to escape from reality, but to create it. Begin the habit in yourself of saying no to negativity. When negative thoughts start their argument in your mind, which they always do, even for optimists, don't stop thinking. Real creative thinking is going to lead to optimism, and optimism is always self-motivating.
Number 53. Debate your dark side.
Negative thinking is something we all do. The difference between the person who's primarily optimistic and the person who's primarily pessimistic is that the optimist learns to become a good debater. Once you become thoroughly aware of the effectiveness of optimism in your life, you can learn to debate your pessimistic thoughts. If you catch yourself brooding, worrying, thinking pessimistically about an issue, build a case for the optimistic view. Pretend you're an attorney whose job it is to prove the pessimist in you is wrong. If you really want to open up your life, go optimistic.
Number 54. Make use of trouble.
I think all of us have heard so many stories, so many incidents where bad events, looking back, in retrospect, were strokes of great fortune. A person who breaks her leg skiing, meets a doctor in the hospital, falls in love, marries him, has a happy life. What seemed horrible turns out to be unexpectedly great. We begin to see the truth in what Richard Bach says. Every problem carries a gift inside it. Now, by choosing to make use of seemingly bad events, by asking yourself, how can I use this? What might be good about this? You can get to the gift inside your problem a lot more quickly.
Number 55. Learn to brainstorm by yourself.
So, try this. Put a goal on the top of a page, and then put numbers 1 through 20 on that page and begin your brainstorming session. List 20 ideas. They don't have to be well thought out. They don't have to be reasonable. Give yourself permission to flow. Your only objective is to have 20 ideas scrawled down within a certain period of time. If you do this for 1 week, you'll end up with 100 ideas. Are they all usable? No, of course not. But who cares? When you began the process, you probably didn't have any usable ideas.
Number 56. Create your own voice.
There have been times when I've been told that I am lucky to have a good speaking voice. Many people are impressed. Sometimes I don't even use a microphone. I speak to hundreds of people in the audience, boom out to them. And people will say, boy, you've been blessed with a powerful set of vocal cords. I have to tell you, it's not true. My voice used to be no better than some feeble monotone. It really was really awful. I would talk like this.
Yeah, my voice, I would love to see you today.
Now look, I set about to change it. I always carry a number of cassettes in my car. I always sing along with them. I crank them up good and loud. By the way, it's best done while you're driving alone. And I sing at the top of my lungs. I make certain I do it every day, even when I don't feel like singing. See, that's the point. Don't let your feelings ruin your life. Keep thinking. Strategize. Plan. You can create anything you want. You can even create your own voice.
Number 57. Live on the frontier.
We've always had a real fascination with America's frontier days. Shows like Little House on the Prairie, movies like Dances with Wolves. It reflects a real yearning for those adventurous times. Now, what's exciting, what's really exciting about today is that a new frontier is here. The technological explosion, our entry into the information age, have created a situation in which employers are no longer interested in our job histories. At least it's not as much as they used to be. What are they interested in? Right now, our current capabilities. For example, let's say my company's trying to enter the Chinese market to sell its software, and you, at age 70, can speak fluent Chinese, know all about software, and have energy and zest for success. How can I afford not to hire you? Times have changed. This is the new frontier. It's all about what you can do, not about what you've done.
Number 58. Replace your habits.
Self-motivation is much more difficult to achieve when we're held back mentally by certain bad habits. But here's the catch. Bad habits can't be gotten rid of because they exist for good reasons. They're there to do something for us, even if that something ends up being self-destructive. You see, down deep, even a bad habit is trying to make us operate better. That's why bad habits have to be transformed and built upon. They can't be killed. They can't be eliminated. We have to go to the beneficial impulse that drives the habit and then build on that to make the habit grow from something bad into something good. What we then achieve is habit replacement. Now, where bad habits are concerned, replacement is the only thing that works. I've known people who quit smoking without even intending to. Maybe they took up running, some form of aerobic exercise. And soon, the breathing and relaxation they were getting from the exercise made smoking feel so bad to their bodies they quit. They quit smoking because they'd introduced a replacement. Subconsciously, you don't even think your habit is bad because it's fulfilling a perceived need. So the way to strengthen yourself is to identify the need and build on it. Honor the need by replacing the current habit with one that's healthier and more effective for you.
Number 59. Paint your day.
Self-motivation is much more difficult to achieve when we're held back mentally by certain bad habits. When you wake up, try picturing your day as a blank artist's canvas. Ask yourself, who's the artist today? Me or blind circumstance? If you choose to be the artist, how do you want to paint your day?
Number 60. Swim laps underwater.
When Bobby Fischer prepared for his World Championship chess match with Boris Spassky, he prepared by swimming laps underwater every day. He knew that as the chess matches wore on into the late hours, the player with the most oxygen going to his brain would have the mental advantage. So he built his brain by building his lungs. Sometimes all you need is the air that you breathe just to motivate yourself. Going for a run or a walk or simply deep breathing gives the brain the fuel it feeds on, and motivation comes easy.
Number 61. Get some coaching.
After a disappointing round on the golf course, Jack Nicklaus would often take a golf lesson. When I first heard about this, I said to myself, who could give Jack Nicklaus a lesson in golf? But that was before I ever really understood the value of coaching. And then a young business consultant named Steve Hardison taught me something. Nicklaus takes a lesson, not because his coach is a better player, but because his coach can stand back from Nicklaus and see his moves objectively. So, if coaching is appropriate for your golf or tennis game, it could also be appropriate for the game of life. Ask someone you admire to be honest with you and coach you for a while. Let them tell you what they see. It's a courageous thing to do, and it'll always lead to growth.
Number 62. Leave home.
Once when Steve Hardison and I were discussing a few of my old habits that were holding me back from realizing my business goals, I finally said to him, but why? Why do I do those things? I mean, if I know they hold me back, why do I continue to do them? And he said, you do them because they feel like home. When you do those things, you do them because that's what you're comfortable doing. And so you make yourself right at home doing them. As they say, there's no place like home. Home can be an ugly place if it's not kept up and consciously made beautiful. Home can be a dark, damp prison, smelling of bad habits and laziness. But we think we're safe there. However, when we inspect the worn-out house more closely, we can see that the safety we think we're experiencing is pure self-limitation. Now, you might want to identify the habits that keep you trapped. Identify what you've decided is your final personality, for example. Understand that it might be a hasty construction built only to keep you safe from risk and growth. See, once you've done that, you can leave. You can leave home. You can get the blueprints out, and you can create a home you really want.
Number 63. Perform rituals.
As you listen to these various ways to motivate yourself, you might have noticed that action is often the key. Doing something is what leads to doing something. It's the law of the universe. An object in motion stays in motion. My own ritual for jump-starting the brain is walking. Many times in my life I've had a problem that seemed so overwhelming. It seemed too overwhelming to even do anything about. But my ritual is to take the problem out for a long, long walk. Time and time again, during the course of the walks, something comes out of nowhere. Some idea for an action that would solve the problem. So try making up a ritual for yourself, anything that will act as a self-starter. Rituals will have you in action before you feel like getting into action. Rituals always override your built-in laziness. They always get you motivated in a predictable, controllable way.
Number 64. Start your life over.
If you catch yourself thinking that you're too old to do something you want to do, please recognize that you're now listening to the pessimistic voice inside of you. It's the voice of a liar. Talk back. Remind the voice of all the people in life who've started their lives over again at any age they wanted to. John Houseman, the Emmy Award-winning actor in The Paper Chase, he started acting professionally when he was 73 years old. Don't listen to the voice inside. You can start your life over right now.
Number 65. Keep all your promises.
One way I used to motivate myself was to make some unreasonable promise. To go to someone I cared about, either personally or professionally, and promise something really big. Something that'll take all the effort and creativity I had to make it happen. But, there were times when those huge promises I made weren't kept, and I realized over the years it's not really an intelligent way to self-motivate. Today I'll make commitments to other people, but they're commitments that I know I can keep. But to motivate myself, I've replaced promising others with setting goals inside myself. The power of goals is that they can be outrageous, they can be huge, and they can free up really wild possibility thinking. Without setting large goals internally, what I tend to do is just live a life of things that I think I have to do.
Number 66. Give some luck away.
Basketball coach John Wooden used to say, "You cannot live a perfect day without doing something for someone who will never be able to repay you." I agree with that. And there's a way to make sure you can't be repaid. That's doing something for someone who won't even know who did it. Now this gets into a theory I've had all my life, and that is, you can create luck. You can create luck in your life by giving it away. See if you can't begin creating your own luck.
Number 67. Draw your universe.
If you use my 4-minute 4-circle goal-setting system that I talked about earlier, you can create your own goal-directed universe. Try this. After you wake up in the morning, wipe the sleep from your eyes, sit down with a pad of paper, and draw 4 circles. Now these are your own planets. Label the first circle, lifelong dream. Your lifelong dream might be to save, $500,000 for your retirement years. So put that number in your life circle. Then look at the next planet in your solar system, circle 2. That circle you're going to label my year. What do you need to save in the next 12 months in order to be on course to hit your life savings goal? Now that you've got your first 2 circles filled with a number, move to the third circle, my month. What would you have to save each month to hit your year's goal? Then put that number down and go to the final circle, my day. What would you need to do today that if you repeated it every day would ensure a successful month? You can't help but see that each circle, if done successfully, guarantees the success of the next circle. If you hit your daily goal every day, your monthly goal is automatically hit. In fact, you don't even have to worry about it. And if your monthly goal is reached, the yearly goal has to happen. It's mathematical. And if your yearly goals are hit, the lifelong goal cannot not be reached. Then you can see, proven for you, that your life and your day are the same thing. You can create your own universe any way you like. The system itself is not the motivator. Your understanding of your responsibility to be a creative planner, that's what the motivator is.
Number 68. Get up a game.
If you're really interested in motivation, there's nothing more fun than competition. Competition has a bad name these days. It shouldn't. It teaches you the valuable lesson that no matter how good you are, there's always somebody better than you. That's a lesson in humility everybody needs. And it teaches you that by trying to beat somebody else, you reach for more inside of you. Trying to beat somebody else puts the game back into life. And if it's done optimistically, it gives energy to both competitors. It teaches sportsmanship. And it gives you a benchmark for measuring your own growth. So in your life, let the games begin. Have fun winning and losing. And when someone has insulted you or underrated you, don't just get even, get better. Use your victory, not to hurt them, but to create you.
Number 69. Turn your mother down.